Hey everyone, we are doing our weekly conversation with Anna. And today is a topic we knew we had to hit. We think we wanted to hit it near the end of the year, so now's as good a time as any. And that is really a couple of things. First off, social media is great. It inspires us. It lets us see what is possible. But in my opinion, there's also a downside, right? You can look at something and get discouraged, get disappointed, get frustrated. And that's unfortunate. And also, frankly, there are a lot of bad actors out there setting unrealistic expectations and the like. So I thought Anna and I would have a conversation, talk about what's real, talk about what you should take away and what you should ignore. So let's welcome Anna to the show. How you doing, Anna?
Good morning, Michael. Doing very well.
Thank you, thank you. So this was really inspired by a Facebook post, actually a series of posts now that you've had. Why don't you kind of set it up? What inspired you to put that out there, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So, as a lot of you have probably thought, there's just so much on social media right now that makes it look like every niche in real estate is just an unfailable thing that you should go after, and that it's going to be your means to, financial freedom. And there are a lot of people, flashing really fancy cars, as we have seen for, a sign of wealth for a very long time, and lots of masterminds coming up that are saying, hey, if you just attend my mastermind, you're going to 10x everything, and it's going to be your path to quick riches in real estate. And as someone who really, like you, Michael, has a heart for newbies and people that are kind of getting started,
Yeah.
or feel like they've been in it a while but they just don't feel like they're making a lot of progress, I get a lot of messages from people, private messages, that say, what am I missing? How come all these people are owning thousands of units, and how come they're all making all this money? And is it really worth it to pay $10,000-$20,000 to go to these masterminds? And where do I get started? And why am I not succeeding when I've been trying to do this and all I have is, 8 or 10 units? And I really just continue to tell people the same thing over and over and over. And I thought, I get that question honestly more than I get anything else. Like, how can I join you for investing? Or, how can I get into apartments? It's more than anything else.
Wow.
Why not me? And what am I doing wrong? And so
Mm.
what I realized is that a lot of the people that are really probably well-intended, many of us, myself included, we try to show the good, bad, and the ugly. Some people only show the good. And
Mm-hmm.
even if we're trying to motivate and inspire, if all we ever show is the good, and we, everything is 10x, rah, rah, millionaire, this is the way, then rather than encouraging people, which is probably the intent, it actually can discourage and deflate people and depress people and make them feel like they're not measuring up. And so I think it's the age old adage of, the grass looks always greener on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always trying to pursue what someone else has that we think we need. And in that process, in our society that wants everything today and now,
Mm-hmm.
we really don't take a step back and think, these things can take a long time to achieve. I got to start somewhere. And
Yeah.
I really need to not compare myself to somebody else who I have no idea how long they've been in it,
Yeah.
what kind of risks they're taking, what kind of wealth they may or may not really have, and whether the success they're showing on Facebook is even real. And so that's really the heart of why I started to decide, let me post some things that might be helpful for people that feel like
Yeah.
that can show them the realities of what they're seeing, and to just help them to think with a mindset of, rather than compare, how can I take where I am today to
Yeah.
get where I want to be, and take slow, steady, methodical, wise actions in order to get there.
I think that's wonderful. I see the same things. I don't get the question as much. I certainly do get it. Kind of, why not me? And what am I missing? Like, what? It's amazing that in today's world, still people are looking for the secret. Like,
Yeah.
what's the one thing that I'm missing?
Mhm.
Does a version of, does the next mastermind have the one secret? Right? If I
Yeah.
pay, it's like they think if they spend 10 grand, somebody's going to slide them a piece of paper and it's like, here it is.
Yeah.
Here's the secret. And there isn't any, at least none that I have found after nearly 20 years. It is the slow and methodical. It's taking one forward step, every day. Um,
Yes.
And that's why I like how our stories, right? We're pretty clear every time we talk. Every time I've heard you interviewed, every time I've interviewed, it's like this took us 15 years to build. And oh, by the way, the
Hmm.
first 8 or 9 were ridiculously slow, right? It just
Yeah.
takes so much time to kind of build and get to that escape velocity.
Yes.
Um, yeah, people can't, you stop comparing yourself to the talking heads on TV, because if they talk about thousands of units. You're right. You don't know how long that took them. You don't know if it's real. You don't know if it's really ownership or they're a piece of the ownership. Um, yeah, I think the one thing people should take from this conversation is they should feel better about themselves. The hard part of this business is making the committed decision, right? It's I'm going to go that way. Um,
Yes.
the other one is you've got to stop being distracted. I mean, if you go an inch in 20 different directions, do you really get anywhere?
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
one. That's the one I hear. Right. One gentleman comes to mind. He must have reached out to me 3 or 4 times now. First, he called me on buy and hold because that's right, my book. Then he
Hmm.
goes, "That's too slow. I'm going to flip." All right. And then he literally, like, he walked back. He's like, "I can't believe how much money these wholesalers are making. I'm going to wholesale." And now it's nearly a year later, and he's done nothing.
Yeah. And
Um,
I think that's really important. And, I want to come back to that unit count and, what seems like people have all these units and come back to that. But before that, I think, to your point, it's so important to kind of say, there's all these real estate niches or niches, however you want to say it. And
mhm,
many people will say that's the only real way to do it and to do it right and to make money.
yeah,
People that love flipping, they just insist that that's the way to retirement and wealth.
yeah,
People that like small buy and holds insist that that's the way, and they'd
mhm,
never own the big one that they have to share with partners.
uh-huh,
People that own the large multifamily say you should never own single family and small rental families, and you're wasting your time, and you
mhm,
got to go big, or and it takes as much time. And there's some truth to the pros of all of those different specialty areas, but there's also a lot of things that don't get talked about that make a different niche completely incompatible with your personal goals and visions and what you're trying to accomplish. And so one of my posts, the first one in the series, was really to say, rather than saying, how can I make money in real estate?
mhm,
You can make money in all kinds of things in real estate, but if you dabble in all of it, you're never going to get really proficient at any of it.
mhm,
And that's what this example that you just gave, it's someone dabbling that's fishing for money. What's the way
mhm,
I chase money? And I
mhm,
think we need to reframe our mindset as investors to say, I'm not looking to just chase money for the sake of money, because I can keep working at my job and
mhm,
still accumulate money. And maybe you love your job, and
mhm,
staying in your job while building passive wealth with rentals is the way for you, and you'll never leave your job.
right,
You may hate your job, and you might find out that you absolutely hate real estate. So because you're trying to chase money and you
mhm,
think this is the way to money, you might kind of sell your soul and end up doing something you hate even more than your W-2. And
yeah,
so I think you have to say, real estate is another way to make money. It's another job. No matter what you're doing, unless you're already independently wealthy,
mhm,
initially it is another job. There's no way around it.
yeah,
So unless you're very wealthy or you've got very wealthy friends that can help you start a business and you can just lead and find people to do all the work for you, some people have success in that model, but most people don't have that combination of skills, ability to run a company, and cash right off the bat. And so no matter how you slice it, I'd say for more than 90% of the people, you are creating yourself another job for a while. And you've got to say, when I'm going to chase another job and create, extra time stress on myself to build wealth, what can I do in the way that's going to be least painful and the best fit for my family, my time, my money, my skills, my personality? And
yeah,
so, if I am somebody who cannot stand construction, and I'm not good at it and I'm not good at numbers, I might not want to go into flipping, no matter how many chunks of cash you can make.
mhm,
If I live in an area like you where it's very expensive to buy property and I don't have any money,
yeah,
then it's going to be really hard for me to try to flip properties in another state when I
yeah,
have zero experience, because
mhm,
it's hard enough to do it in your backyard. And
mhm,
so things like that, people are skipping those questions and just saying, wholesaling's where it's at, so I'm going to start. Flipping's where it's at, so I'm going to start. And I think we need to step back and say, what are your goals and dreams, and what is your vision? Why do you think you want to get into real estate?
Mhm.
And then let's hone in on what's the best way for you to get started.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I totally agree. I think, the more and more we talk about this, I think what folks are getting is they're setting the wrong goal, or maybe they would call it an expectation. Maybe it's not a goal, maybe
yeah,
it's an expectation. Again, they're seeing these posts, they're seeing these people, they're like, if they can do it, I could do it, right?
yes.
I'm smarter than he or she. But
Mhm.
what they really need to realize is, I think it's the wrong goal, right? The person usually flashing is 10 years in or 5 years in, and or lying, one or the other. But that's the expectation, and I think people need to realize they should have a shorter term goal, right? One of the quotes that I like that's attached to my name is, "Financial freedom is hard, but a better financial future is easy." Right? So
Mm.
if you set financial freedom as your goal or expectation, it takes a long time. But if you say,
Yeah,
I want a better financial future, I mean, that could mean so many. That could mean one rental house, right? That could mean
I
one
love
wholesale
that.
deal. So let's take the expectation from here down to here, because, oh, by the way, as you get to this one, you can decide to keep going, right?
Yes.
So let's talk about having a better financial future, because then it's such an easier conversation. You know?
I absolutely love that, Michael, because it talks about a couple of things. I mean, one, to your point, is that it's baby steps and it's a realistic mindset that I'm going to do something today to create some kind of cash or cash flow
Yeah, either. Yeah.
or wealth appreciation down the road that's going to set me off better for later. But it also allows you to not have to feel like you have to figure it out when you have no idea what you're getting into. And
Exactly.
you're going to change your mind about what makes sense for you and at what speed and in what way as you go and as you grow as a person, as an investor,
Hmm.
as your family dynamics change. I see a lot of people that get out started really young, which is amazing,
Hmm.
and what they can do in terms of their risk tolerance and their time commitment when they're young
Yeah.
is one thing. And as they get older and they have kids and the kids get older and there's more
Yeah.
time suck, you're like, I wouldn't and couldn't do the things that I did before then. So I've got to kind of shift gears. So allowing yourself to every day say, how can I better my financial future from here? I think is really, really good. I love that quote.
Yeah. Let's make that the one that people start talking about, right? If we can just make all real estate investors, coaches, mentors, whatever, masterminds talk about, let's take our tribe, and let's talk about having a better financial future in the next 12
Yeah.
months. I mean, your
Yeah.
decisions, your stress, the things you do are just so different. Instead of getting wrapped around the axle, like, I'm not going fast enough, I can't see financial freedom. It's because it's
Yeah.
not there yet. You're years away from that. Let's
Right.
let's reset. So I'm glad you like that one. I'm gonna get a
Yeah.
poster made of that one or something. Um,
Yeah, it's great. And I think too, to that whole, I think where people struggle, Michael, is they say, oh, well, it might be years away, but this guy said he's just been doing it a year and he's retired. Well, you've got to ask yourself, okay, what did he do before? Did he
yeah.
make $10 an hour, working at McDonald's, and now he's made $20,000 a year in a year?
Mm,
That's pretty good, but
uh-huh.
anybody could retire if that's what they made. It's
Yeah.
pretty easy to do that in real estate, one or two flips a year, or
Done. Yeah.
a one or two rental properties, and you're done. So it's different to see a 22-year-old guy that says, I've retired and I'm never going to go to work, than it is to see someone that's maybe 40 or 50 like us, who
Yeah.
had six-figure corporate jobs that we were able to give up because of real
Yeah.
estate. And so
Totally.
it took us a lot longer to get there,
Yeah.
but we also had a much bigger hurdle to clear to be able to say we're retiring, thanks to
Mm,
real estate. So
yeah.
you've got to be able to start asking probing questions when somebody makes a claim,
Hmm.
whether it be what they've done, that they can teach you for money to do what they've done, or
Yeah.
get you in a mastermind to do what they've done. You've got to ask yourself um, probing questions to not only figure out, are they the real deal, or they doing this, fake it till you make it, become a social media um, authority
Yeah.
so that you can eventually grow, which is what most people are doing today. And so, it's great to have social media, but it's really important that we be authentic and that we have the discernment to be able to ask the probing questions to see through what's real and what's not. And so some of the things I think we need to ask ourselves, like when you see guys that say, I have 1,000 units, or we're crushing it and we closed this apartment deal and we closed that apartment deal. Okay, do you really own 1,000 units? Because everybody will say, I own 1,000 units. I own 2,000 units. I've closed 2,000 units this year. Well, how did you do that? Are you really wealthy? Did you have the cash and you've got somebody else operating it, or are you operating it and really learning and making ongoing cash from that? What I see a lot of times is people are actually an apprentice. And so they've taken a course,
Yeah.
and they have gone to somebody and said, I'll work for you for free if you give me 2% of the deal.
Yeah.
Or I'll raise money for you from my family and friends for your deal if you'll give me a little bit of ownership. And so a lot of times people have a very, very small role in a big partnership of people. And I applaud them for getting started in whatever way they can.
Sure.
But then they make claims that I did this or I own this. And really what they have is they are students who have been given compensation rather than, cash,
Yeah.
as a small percentage of an ownership in a deal. And so they may look like, wow, they're super successful. They did all this stuff, but they might make, $1,000 a month from 2,000 units, where you can make $1,000 a month owning a single 4-unit building by yourself. So
Exactly.
you've got to sit back and say, how did they do it? And ask probing questions. Say, this is awesome how you're doing it. Can you show me how you did it? And how much money are you really making from it?
Yeah.
What was your role in this deal? How are you doing this? And if you ask those probing questions, somebody that's honest is going to answer them honestly. And you're going to figure out that sometimes it makes a lot more sense to buy smaller properties, own them 100%, and you'll make just as much or significantly more than some of the people that you think they're doing so amazing because they claim to own all these stores that they really own stock in.
Yeah.
They don't own Amazon. They own Amazon stock.
Yeah.
They don't own the apartment units. They have ownership in them. And I think
Right.
too many people are not clear with our words about what we really own versus what we have ownership in.
Yeah.
And what our real involvement in the space is, and whether that is accomplishing our financial goals or not. So we got to be real careful to chase that, and to not hire mentors or go to masterminds unless we're especially asking those probing questions.
Yeah, I'm so glad we're talking about this unit count one. This is one I found myself falling into mid-year. It is absolutely not about unit counts. Like you said, you can
Right.
own if the deal structure is put together on 1,000-unit deal, you could make less each month than a fourplex. You're so right. I mean, I see it all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So let's not get enamored with unit count. Yeah. If you want to talk about your cash flow for the month, right? Net, that's an interesting conversation, right? How'd you do that?
Yes.
I'd much rather talk about that because I've seen people with, I know I can think of one individual in my city of Fresno who has, I think, 38 units. And I believe most months he makes $0, right?
Yeah.
Because some win, some lose. They're not financed very well. And I'm like,
Yes.
yeah, you can tell people you have 40 units, but you're going to be break even and probably 4 months out of the year lose money. So, not very impressed. Right. So,
Yes. And that goes back to the whole, why are you really in real estate? And if we think my goal is to own 10 units, in 10 years, or my goal is to own a unit number, it makes what's in your mind and what's foremost in front of you is, I got to find a deal.
Yep.
Oh, this deal looks nice. It's a nice house. Well, if your goal is cash flow, then you're probably better off not chasing a single family house. If your goal is financial appreciation and financial preservation, then single families can be really smart to do. If your goal is passive and not very much time, they're easier to manage. But I know people that really need the cash, and they're going after nicer, newer, more expensive buildings and then not cash flowing. And it's like, why did you buy that building? Because it doesn't meet your financial goals. So it all comes back to, where are you today and why do you need real estate? If you want cash, you're going to chase if you want chunks of cash, you might chase a transactional type of real estate like flipping. If you want to build wealth and cash flow and financial freedom, which we both advocate through rentals, then you've got to find the type of rentals that's going to meet your goals for today. Think about the future, yes, but most importantly, it's today. Do you need the cash? You're going to focus on a certain type of asset. Do you need chunks of cash? Do you just want to grow appreciation on the back end? You're going to buy a very different type of property. And if you've already got cash and you need something passive that's just going to not go down if we have a market correction, like a lot of these hedge funds, you might chase something that's newer, doesn't give you much cash at all, not going to have a great return, but it's going to preserve your capital. So that financial question to me is the most important, is where are you and what do you need financially? What's your number one financial goal today? And go after the properties that are going to help you do that. And you've got to then filter out with blinders everything else you see, every other niche you see, and just go all in to that one thing, one rental at a time, till you're growing what you need to do. And then once you've built it and have some momentum, then you can start shifting gears into, expanding upon that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Do me a favor. Reach out to Anna or I before you expand out, because most of you want to expand out years too early, right?
Yeah.
You've got to get this escape velocity. So this video, this interview is really discussions about social media, not letting it discourage you, because real estate investing has both provided you and I with, frankly, more than we could ask for, right, when we were starting.
Absolutely.
So it is there for you. You've got to be focused. You got to fight, like Anna talks about all the time, right? You got to know what's right for you. Let's figure out what your better financial, what's going to make you better in 2020, right? Is it a chunk? Is it finding out how to generate 20K chunks of cash? Right. Okay, great. Focus on that. Is it cash flow? Maximum yield. Is that maybe a residential fourplex? Do you want to preserve capital? Is it a house? Let's do that. Let's not. There is no secret, folks. Right? It's focus. It's execution. It's letting all the other nonsense in real estate go by the wayside. That's something that Anna and I have both done, and hopefully you've heard in our interviews. Is we figured out what was right for us, and we just did that. Is that fair?
Absolutely. And I think along with our financial goals, you need to ask in terms of, just a few questions to get your minds going. And maybe we can, piggyback on this in future episodes is, ask yourself, how much time do I realistically have to give to start building? How much cash do I realistically have? What are my skills? An honest assessment of, am I better at numbers? Am I better at construction? Do I like to work alone? Do I have trust issues with giving up control, or would I rather work with a team? What is my spouse on board? All of those things are really important. And then what are you passionate about and what do you absolutely hate? And if you can put those things in front of you along with your financial goals, then as you start to research a little bit, maybe on bigger pockets, research wholesaling and what it's involved, or flipping and what's involved, or rentals, which we believe in much more strongly for long-term growth. What's involved in singles, duplexes, large multifamily, passive, active. And then as you go through and learn what's involved, check off those boxes to say, am I a good fit in this particular niche? And is it a good fit for me today? And where your time and your money and your skills and your passions meet a place that you can make money, that might be the good place to start.
I love that. Let's make that. I guess actually, I think next Wednesday is Christmas, so I think we'll do it the week after.
Great.
We'll let you enjoy your holiday with your family. So, Anna, this has been so much fun. I'm glad you're putting those posts out. Keep it up. I always learn something talking to you, and have a happy holiday.
Thank you. You too.
Oh, thank you. Oh.
Bye-bye.